Instructions, we're going to be studying two, and I actually found a third one too, artists. One of them is Italian, Naomi Vona. She lives in Milan, and she does a lot of workshops and stuff there. And then another one is an American artist named Stephanie Pierson. So they go about collage using the fashion plate models and magazines a little bit differently. Stephanie Pierson, she actually does more of a montage look, kind of like what we did with the cafe culture drinks you just finished, where you take different magazine images and take them from different places and put them together to have new meaning. So she does it that way. So some of you really enjoy doing that process of collage. So that is an option for you. And then Naomi Vona, she largely uses paint and mostly Posca pens to use to create patterning around her people, almost like a Zentangle. If you've heard of Zentangles, where it's kind of a method of using patterns, repeated patterns. So if you like that method, you can go about using that method. And then Karen Lauder, she doesn't have a website, but I found her on Facebook. But she uses gel prints to recreate her fashionistas. And so if you can see her using gel prints in the background and in the clothing. So that's kind of what we can do as well there, just to give you an idea. So we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. So today is going to be all about preparing your collage papers and your canvas for next week, getting started, okay? Up here are some examples of some student work that was done up there, and you can kind of see. So I'm going to go through steps 1, 2, and 3 all together right now for you. That way everybody can kind of work at their own pace. Last night we were really pushed, so everybody was here till like 9:30. So I want to go ahead and get started so that you have plenty of time to do everything in the piece. We absolutely have to do the step 3 today because it has to dry. So you can't like wait till next week. So I'm going to go over all of it with you, and the instructions are there, and then of course we're here as well, okay? On your table, we're going to make a couple things. You're going to choose your fashionista. So in just a minute, I'm going to put a stack of magazine fashionistas that are ripped out of magazines for you to choose from. If you don't like any that are in your stack at your table, then go and look at a different table. But that's the easiest way to do it, so we're not all crowded at the same place. And then also, if you still don't find anything you like, there are fashion magazines and magazines up here on this table that you can look through as well, okay? Also on your table, you have a cutting mat and an X-Acto knife. Most of those blades have been changed, but if for some reason you have an old blade and it's not cutting, let us know, because a sharp blade is going to be very important. Also, you have a big piece of acetate, because we're going to make our own stencils from our fashionistas that you cut out, so we can gel print them and have just some repetitive shapes. So that's what those are for. So once you have chosen your fashionista, and I have a couple here that I was looking through that I liked. I really like ones that have a lot of diagonals and curves, like she is very curvy. You can also exaggerate, like I could really exaggerate her bum because it's all about the base, and give her some big wide leg pants and stuff like that. That would be kind of fun, like, you know, real sassy. I really like her. She'd be easy to cut out as well. And she has really interesting outline shapes. So that's what you need to look for, is what you're picking out, a really interesting outline. And I really like her because you could do something really cool, like stack stuff underneath her, like what is her foot sitting on, stuff like that. And then look at her, right? She's very interesting little even shapes if I cut out her pants with all of those different shapes. But then I settled on this one because it's very different than what I usually do, and she's sitting back and it'll be more horizontal. But I also chose this one because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about cutting your stencil out, okay? If you look at this image, she has her purse here and this scarf. And if you think about the shape that would make the outside outline shape, she's going to have this weird big blob shape here, right? So I'm going to intentionally try to make up where her back is, leaning on there. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Okay, so if you find an image you like, but it doesn't have a good outside shape, it doesn't mean I can't put another person there later, but it's not gonna, the shape, I don't like it. So I'm gonna cut that out, and I'm going to give her an elbow as well. I could also give her a hand, but then I went down here, look at these cool shoes. I wish I could have found an image for what that looked like. So I could make that and complete that shape, but what I might do is I might just put her on the edge of my canvas like that and just do an elbow. I really like how the shape is going to look up here with that whatever's on her head. That's going to make that very interesting, and her glasses. So I'm going to keep that on her head. Does that make sense? So as you make those decisions, it is possible to cut stuff off that you don't like. And then there's a piece of acetate on your table, and all you're going to do is you're going to go around and you're going to trace the outline of your model. So that way you can cut it out so it becomes a shape like this. I've already done a gel print of this so you can see. And unfortunately I didn't keep the background, even though I want you to keep your background. So it became a shape like that you're gonna cut out. Can you see that? Isn't that interesting? Shape like that. And that was her. Okay? All right, so that's the first thing that you're gonna do. Pick out your model, create your acetate stencil image, and once you cut it out, then you have a mask. This is a mask because it masks out what you sit on it. This is a stencil, right, because it's a negative shape. So that's the difference, a mask and a stencil. You have both of those, positive, negative, and they can create some really interesting images on a gel plate that you could potentially use next week. So we're going to be doing a lot of gel prints that you may or may not use, but we're going to have them in case. Okay, so that way you can guide it. So that's what you're going to do today. And then you're also going to cut her out and keep the background, which I did not do apparently because I can't find it. But you want to keep the background because that also could potentially be used in your piece as a negative or something. But keep it, so cut her out, keep the background, and then you're going to put the magazine image in the bag that you have with your number on it. Okay, because you're not going to need that today, but you are going to need the acetate mask and stencil. Does that make sense? Yes.
Is all the cutting we're doing with X-Acto knives?
Yep. So it is a good idea to cut with the X-Acto knife to cut this out, but some friends found that very difficult, so you could cheat. And you could just use scissors to cut it out, and then we can just tape it closed. Okay, but you do need to, do you see how, let's see, where does she go? Do you see this shape right here? Do you see this shape? That's called a trap shape. So that shape you're going to need to cut out with an X-Acto knife. So cut out those shapes, even if they're really small, you can cut those shapes out. So like on her, I would need to use an X-Acto to cut those out. Okay? Okay. Okay, good. So remember, you're saving this because you're going to use it today. This is going in your bag and the background. Yes. Yes, the background of the magazine. Yes. Yeah, I didn't listen to myself, and apparently I threw it away. Okay. So, you guys don't need to watch me cut something out, do you? Yeah. Okay. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, say that's step one. So when you finish that, we're going to take your X-Acto knife off the table and your scissors off the table so you don't forget and accidentally cut the gel plate. So those are going to go over here. So we'll cut those off, and then you're going to get a gel plate set up just like this. Okay, it has 4 pieces of deli paper, which is awesome to make gel prints on because when you collage it and you leave some spaces that are just deli paper, it goes into nothing. It's completely transparent, and it can create these beautiful layered images that you have. So I love using this gel print deli paper. It's called dry wax paper. Some of them are a little bit thicker. This one is really thin, but it's really strong, and so I really, really like it. If you use a whole lot of paint, it will come through the paper, but you know, that's very Italian gesture. Who cares, right? It's just a gel print paper. So you're going to have 4 of those, 4 pieces of music that we've cut up and 4 dictionary pages, because you can do lots of collage paper on different papers and book pages and stuff like that, and you never know what's going to be hidden in there that you could use. Okay, so it's always better to have more than not enough choices to choose from, in my opinion. You're also going to have one of these kids' directories. We keep asking her not to bring these, but she keeps bringing them. That's okay, because they make great roll-off papers. And with your brayer, oops, which I have to get, Pam, would you mind getting me a brayer that's up there? See one of those? Yep. If you need to clean your brayer, you can just use these papers to clean your brayer off. And actually, they make great collage papers as well, because you have these little peek-throughs, thank you, of different things happening there. So that's what that little booklet is for. Some people also like to use it to pull off any remaining paint on their gel plate if they just want it to be cleaner, and they'll do like that and pull it off. This is a brayer, not a roller. A roller is what you use to paint walls. A brayer is what you use in printmaking. And jelly printing is a way of making a printmaking called a monoprint, because you only make one print, your next print, you can't replicate it, no matter how hard you try. So mono means one, and so that's why they're monoprints. If you've done jelly printing with me before, we've done a lot of color gel prints, and they're awesome, but we're going to do something a little different today. We're just going to use black and white paint today to create gel prints in black and white. And the reason for that is we're going to make a lot more prints than we really need, and that way you can use them for other projects, especially if you come back in January. We're going to do a lot more gel printing, using these a whole lot more on the projects we're going to be doing. So we're going to do them in black and white, because you can use transparent watercolor, or you can use fluid acrylics, which act like watercolor because they're transparent, but they're acrylic, to stain them the color that you want. So it gives you more options than just doing color, because I would have had to tell you to choose a color scheme, and then we would have had to share the paint as well. So I think doing just black and white prints gives us more options. Does that make sense? And it's easier because it's less to think about too. Okay? All right, so I'm going to show you how to do a gel print. So in case you haven't done this with me, they are addictive, so I apologize ahead of time if you really like it. In the middle of your table, you also have a folder full of stencils, pre-made stencils, and then of course you're going to have your own stencil as well. And very good. So what you're going to do is you can start your gel prints. You can start with the dark color black, and then add white on top of your dark prints, or you can go in reverse. So you can work back and forth all the time with the black and white. So sometimes it'll go a little gray and you get mid-tones in there, and that's totally fine. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the ones I've already done before I get started here. So you have an option when you get started to pull a print. That's when you pull the paper off the wet paint of the gel plate. So whenever you're doing printmaking, there's always some sort of plate involved, and this is the gel is the plate. You can pull a print with just a solid color with no pattern on it. So like I did that, I rolled white on here, although it looks a little gray because I had done a black print first, and I just pulled solid white off. This paint is a little bit transparent, this acrylic paint, so you can see a little through it, which I really like. So that is a solid color. So then my next layer on top, I could layer on a print on top of that with black. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you how to do that. But I'm going to show you a few that I did. So here's one where I was using my acetate cutout. So I did a flat black layer, and then I just did a solid layer of using my mask on top of that. And then I have a couple grungy ones which I feel like weren't quite complete, but sometimes it's nice just to have something that's not too patterny. You know, sometimes those are nice as well. And then here's the opposite of that one that I did. And then here are some that I did that were on the deli paper. So with the deli paper and with this paper, if you don't start with a solid background and you start with a patterned background, that's going to leave some transparent holes. So I know it's hard for you to see on the screen, but watch if I had a background of that bright green and then I collage that on there. See how that green comes through? I mean, it can really give you a lot of options. So I most often don't do solid backgrounds. I most often start with pattern backgrounds so I can get those see-through things, because it gives me a lot more options and a lot of aha moments that you didn't expect before. If I were to collage this onto here, that kind of fogginess would completely disappear and then you just see the paint. Does that make sense to y'all? So these that I made all started with more of a patterned background. Okay. Are you guys kind of with me still? So let's get to it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Whoop. So you don't forget, yes.
You told us about the dry wax paper. What was the other paper?
The other paper is just old dictionary pages and music pages
Okay.
from piano books. Yeah. Okay. So pull off that top bit and put it underneath there. And then I'm going to go ahead and start with just a white background. And I usually work on 2 or 3 pages at a time. That way I can decide which page I want to do next. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a layer of white. I would just put this down and pull it up, and it would just be a white print. But that's easy for you to understand. So I'm going to put this down, and then I'm going to put the paper down, and then you rub it like there's a genie going to pop out and grant you your 3 wishes. And if the stencil has very small holes like this, you really have to use your fingers to make sure that you're getting that print really well done. And then, because it's white, it's not going to have a whole lot of contrast, but I'll pull it up like that so you can see. Isn't that cool? Now, if you've put enough paint on there and you are quick, you can actually pull what they call a ghost print, which will be the reverse. So then I could pull that print on another piece or 2 pieces if I wanted to. Do it like this. Rub it. And again, it's not going to have a whole lot of contrast right now, but it's getting me started. You see that? Yeah. So then I lay them out here. So gel printing takes a lot of room. So we'll be coming around, and if you're happy with the print, then we're going to put it on the drying rack for you. And then also, you know the number Tim gave you? You need to make sure that you number all your papers, because my assistants are going to refile them for you, and it's real hard for them to read names. So that way you just put your number in a corner for us, and we will make sure you get yours back. I'm going to do one more. Now I'm going to do a black layer. Yes. Question? Yeah. Okay, and then, that's all right, we'll get it for you. No worries. Woo. Okay, now this is the part where I'm going to have a drum roll, because this is going to be really cool. Oh, here we go. I'm going to put that on there. And y'all remember this print that we just did? This paint dries super fast, so most of the time, by the time you're ready to put another layer, it's already dry. And even if it's not, that's okay. I'm going to put this print right down, face down again on there. And watch this. This is the addictive part. The paint side down. Good question. It looks like it's paint side up because this paper is so transparent, but it's actually paint side down. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so you can really see through it still, but you have all this interesting stuff happening. Isn't that cool? Now, for some reason, I didn't like how that looks. I could do a 3rd layer or even a 4th layer, but I really like this, so I would probably stop there and put my number on it, and then I'll put it on the drying rack. Okay? So you can play back and forth between all your papers until you get them like you like. However, when I say you're going to have to come to a stopping point with your gel prints, you're going to have to stop, because the step 3 has to be done today. Okay? So I'll let you know when that happens. If you don't get all your papers gel printed, no worries at all. We're probably not going to use them all anyway, but it is good to have some, and I have extra as well. Okay? All right, so when you're finished, I can even pull that ghost print, but I think I did too much talking, so it's probably dry. Let's see. Oh, it pulled a little bit. look at that one. Subtle, but you never know when you can use something like that. Okay, when you're finished with your gel plate, depending on the time, if we finish early, you can take a rag and just wipe it. Otherwise, we'll do that for you so you can get started on step 3. Your brayers, those pop out, and if you would, just pop those out for me. And you see that bucket up there? That bucket has Murphy's oil soap and water in it, and it really takes all the paint off, so we don't have to scrub the brayers at all. So you just pop this out, drop it in there, and we will clean those. Okay? So then step 3 is, I'll drop this down on the ground, is that we need to prep our canvas. If you didn't bring your canvas today, I have some extra ones, and you can have one of the ones I have. And so the first thing that you need to do if you want a complete border around is we'll give you a ruler, and you lay the ruler down on top of there and use your Sharpie. So you just lay it down just like that and just trace it. Okay, and that gives you an automatic frame. So when you finish this piece, you just boop, put it on the wall. Right? So to make the frame, just like you see in the pictures in the directions, see that right there? That's a 3D texture frame there. To make that, we're going to use something called modeling paste. And so you have a credit card or a Starbucks card on your table. You may have thought I was giving you a gift, but sorry, no, they're empty. So you're gonna use modeling paste to scrape up this, use the credit card to scrape on the modeling paste. It doesn't have to be very thick. And then you can use a fork and or your fingers and or something else to create a design in it by scraping through. Okay, so I'm going to show you some from last night. Isn't that cool? So this person used a fork. This person used their fingers. It doesn't have to be straight either. If you like this more raggedy look, totally fine. That was just a guide. This is cray-cray, but I like it. And I think they used a combination of fork and fingers. And then you could also use the stencils. So what you do is you lay the stencil on there and you use the credit card to scrape through it. It's a little fiddly, so you have to pay attention because if you're like me, you will scrape your elbow through there. So, but this person used a stencil to create that pattern look around. Isn't that really cool? So you just lay this on there and then take your credit card, whoop, and scrape it right through, just like that.
How quickly does this dry?
It takes overnight. This is why we have to do it before you leave. That's why I'm like, you can't leave without doing step 3. If you want a border. If you don't have if you're not here, then you just won't be able to do it. This person then, see that? They just use this little thingy, which creates borders and frames, just to do something a little bit more simple. So you can do that as well if you don't want the whole thing completed, because then this gives you a little bit more options, like you can go extend beyond it if you want to do that. Okay, and then this is one last one that is all scrapey. I like that, with a fork. Okay, all right, so that is that. I'm going to just scrape this right back off in case anybody didn't bring their thing and they wants to use this one. You can use this one. And that's the last thing. Now the instructions tell you to paint the inside, but last night I realized that that's just too much stuff to do right now, so we're going to skip the painting of the inside. So ignore that step in your instructions, okay? And so all you need to do today is to make your mask stencil and cut out your fashion person. You need to do gel prints, however many you can do in the time we have, and then you absolutely have to do the modeling paste if you want that look, because that has to have time to dry. Yes.